Hi, I'm Max from Sablier, and in this talk we will go over the basics of token streaming, the current token streaming ecosystem, and the future vision we have of Sablier. So to quickly start, we first need to understand what token streaming is. So just like you can stream a movie on Netflix or a song on Spotify, you can stream tokens using Sablier. And so I can stream you $100, for example, over a month. And during that month, every second, you will receive a fraction of those $100. So effectively, we are doing by-the-second payments, where every second you will receive a fraction of the total amount. And so this is like streaming a song on Spotify or streaming a movie on Netflix, except in this case, we replace that with tokens. And so the problems we are solving are that in our current economy, people have to wait for income to arrive. Now, this may seem like something which is very logical, and that you have to wait for your paycheck payments by intervals, that you have to wait for your paycheck to arrive every month, for example. But why are you paid every month? Why not every week? Why not every day? Why not every hour? Why not every minute? Why not every second? There's no reason for this arbitrary decision to be just paid like every month. And so that's something which we are solving, and it's an inherent problem when it comes to time efficiency. Because it means that there's a lot of latency in our economy because entities spending in our economy need to always wait for their income to arrive before they can start spending it. Well, if they were streamed their income, they could be able to spend it in real time. And then you also have the fact, like the problem when it comes to freelancers. Because when you have a freelancer, and this is just an example to explain the inherent conflict that there is in financial relationships. So you have a freelancer. And that freelancer has a client, and the client just hired this freelancer, they're working together. And now comes the question, how are they paid? And so one way to do it, which is very common, is that the client will pay 50% upfront and then 50% afterwards. But then there's no guarantee for the freelancer that the client will pay the remaining 50% afterwards. And there's no guarantee for the client that the freelancer will actually do the work once they paid the 50% upfront. Well, with streaming, if you stream the funds to the freelancer, as the freelancer, if the client stops the stream at any time, they stop paying, I can just stop working. And because the funds were streamed, I was already paid for the time I worked. And as a client, if the freelancer doesn't do the job, I can just stop the stream and limit my losses. And so this is like an ideal way to handle this conflictual relationship in finance where it's always very hard to trust the other party. In this case, you can have these trustless payment mechanisms where both parties are at equal powers, basically. And yeah, it's obviously very time efficient. Wait, it's actually, yeah, that's actually the previous one. Oops. Yeah, it's obviously very time efficient because it's happening in real time. And so the use cases that we have for streaming right now are payroll, getting paid with your paycheck through Sablier. It's ideal because you don't have to wait for your paycheck to arrive every month, for example. You receive it in real time. You have vesting. Let's say you're launching a new token. You want to vest it to your employees or investors. Instead of having a quarterly unlock, for example, you can stream it to them. And the advantage with that is that you won't have the monthly sell-offs when people receive their tokens because they're streamed. And so that's a really big advantage. And then you have airdrops, which make a ton of sense with Sablier and streaming in general. Because when you are airdropping tokens to people and you are sending them all at once to that person, the odds are likely that they will sell them immediately. And so when you stream these tokens over time, let's say you stream these tokens over a year, for example. Well, what that means is that the recipients know that, okay, I will still be receiving tokens in a year from now. So I'm incentivized to think long term. My interests are now aligned with the project's interests because I have to think long term because I know that in a year I will still be receiving tokens. And so that's a big advantage. And so right now, our current ecosystem is still very small. Actually, when you think about streaming, it's a very small primitive. It's being used by a lot of different organizations, but it's still very small. And so you have three major entities right now active in the ecosystem. You have Sablier, where I work, you have Superfluid, and then you have LlamaPay. So only three really major entities in the EVM streaming ecosystem. And so there's a lot of growth to be happening there in the future. And yeah, we are very bullish. So these are some of our users, just to show you that there's actual use case here. I know Shapeshift has been using us for a lot of internal reward contribution systems for their DAO contributors. Astaria has been using us for their internal payroll. Compound has used us to reward some of the entities contributing to their organization. So there are tons of ways to use streaming in general. And so recently, what we did is that we announced Sablr V2, and actually we released it, and with it comes a ton of new use cases. And so one of the things which is really unique about Sablr V2 is the ability to have custom streaming curves, which comes through the universal streaming engine which we released. And so you have a ton of different features which we've introduced, like uncancelable streams, NFT representation. And speaking of NFT representation, one of the great things about NFT representation is the fact that every stream in Sablr is now inside of an NFT. So when you think of like Uniswap V3, for example, you have your liquidity positions in an NFT. And in this case, it's the exact same thing, but for streams. And what that allows you to do is, let's say you have a compatible NFT lending protocol, you can deposit that NFT in that lending protocol and then borrow against it, using it as collateral. And effectively, what you're then doing is borrowing against future income which you haven't yet received. That's pretty insane, because in crypto, that's pretty much impossible right now, as far as I know. And you can do so now using Sablr by borrowing against future income which you haven't yet received. And then another ability is to sell the stream, for example, on a marketplace, like OpenSea. Let's say you are paid $10,000 through a stream over a period of a year. And you don't want to wait a year. You want your income right now. What you can say is, okay, I will go sell the stream on OpenSea for $9,900, for example. And the buyer, in this case, will get $100 as income to wait a year to get the whole $10,000, basically. And you get the whole $9,900 instantly just for a $100 fee. So imagine being able, for example, to receive your paycheck instantly just by paying like 1% on your paycheck. That's pretty great. Like you could just receive a year worth of income directly, instantly, just by selling your NFT on OpenSea. And then you obviously also have the ability to send that stream to someone else, for example. Let's say you want to gift income to someone else. You can do so using Sablr. And so one of the other things which we have introduced with V2 is the custom streaming curves. And so right now, most streaming protocols in general are still tied to this idea of linear streaming. So your streaming rates remains the same throughout the stream. And so it's this linear curve. And some of them also offer the ability to have cliffs, right? So you have this instant unlock and then start streaming. But with V2, what we're introducing is a universal streaming engine, like we call it. And so it gives you the ability to create any type of stream. So you can create exponential streams, for example, meaning a stream where the streaming rate will increase exponentially. And so again, this is like ideal for example, airdrops, where I want to incentivize my community to think long term. I will create an exponential stream, for example, for 4 years. And they will know then that the majority of their tokens will be received on year 3, probably in year 4, because it goes exponentially up, and that the major parts being streamed in an exponential function is the latter part. And so they're incentivized to think long term. And that's really great. And then you also have the ability to create, for example, traditional unlock vesting streams. So, the traditional vesting contracts where you have a quarterly unlock, and every 3 months, for example, tokens are being unlocked. This can be now done using Sablr. And the advantage is that you don't have to call, for example, a custom function on Etherscan and go through their difficult interface. You can just use our interface. And so you can basically create any type of stream using Sablr V2 to really fit the situation, the contexts you're in. And so the future vision which we have at Sablr is a vision where you will have this full liquid economy. So right now, when you look at your bank account, it's static. So the balance on your bank account remains the same all year, basically. When you do a transaction, it changes, but it remains fixed. It's not changing every second. With streaming, we're getting to a world where every second your balance will be changing, because you will receive a stream from your employer as part of your paycheck, and you will be streaming some of that to your landlord for your rent. You will be streaming some of that to your Netflix subscription. You will be streaming some of that to some of your friends, whatever. And so you will get this full connected streaming graph where every node is an entity or a person, and money is just like flowing like it would be like in an irrigation system, basically. And it's just flowing from one node to another, and each node can redirect streams to one another. Each node can split these streams in different parts. They can redirect them, and everything is just flowing from one node to another. And so you will have this fully liquid economy, in a sense, which I think is pretty incredible, and will be much, much, much more efficient financially and economically speaking, because funds will be arriving in real time. You won't have to wait anymore to buy your latest iPhone, because in the middle of the month, you will already be able to buy it without having to wait the end of the month. And yeah, I think that's pretty great. And so that was it. Thank you for listening. If you're interested, head over to Sable.com, @Sable on Twitter. And yeah. Are there any questions?
One, two? Okay. Is it really possible to bridge this sort of solution to the Web2 people? Because to me it seems like this is one of the greatest places where Web2 people might onboard into Web3, and they will actually take this step because of the benefits this will bring to them. Is it really possible to bridge this to like regular like invoices, like Euro USD flows? And what are the roadblocks, if there is any? Thank you.
Yeah, sure, good question. So I think that this is like a big thing we're thinking about at Sabler, is like how to bring it to the masses, basically, and how to get this adopted in the actual traditional financial world. One of the big roadblocks right now is accounting, because when you think about accounting, it doesn't take into account time. You have your two columns, and that's it. There's no third column for time. And so this is one of the current questions we get a lot when we have users using the protocol, which is, how does that work in terms of accounting? Now, obviously, this changes from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but I think that's one of the big roadblocks. We are definitely working on providing sort of like templates, for example, for organizations to be able to adopt. But that's probably one of the biggest roadblocks. Now, regarding everything else, it's there. We can abstract away this completely through an easy-to-use interface. I could definitely see, sort of like integration where, just via your bank, it uses in the backends the protocol. I think these things are totally doable. And I think the interesting thing about streaming is that both parties often have an actual reason to do it. Like as an employer, for example, you can create your stream on the 1st of January, create it for a full year, and you're good to go. You don't need to manage your payroll anymore. You just forget about it. Just create your stream day one, and you're good to go for a year. And if your employee leaves during the year, you can just cancel the stream. So there's nothing to worry about. And then the employee is very happy because the employee receives his income in real time. So it suits both parties, basically. And so I think in terms of adoption, we will probably exponentially grow from here. Now, regarding the Web2 world, the barrier is definitely accounting. Right now, that's not been an issue because most of our adopters are, sort of like innovative, quite advanced organizations, which are just like looking forward to the future and ready to use systems like these. But yeah, to convince traditional organizations to use tools like these, we will have to have a clear accounting framework in place to get this working for everyone. Yeah, by the way, we have... Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I have another question, but did you have something to say first?
Sorry?
Did you have something to say first?
Sorry. Oh, no, go on.
Okay, yeah, thank you for your talk. It was very interesting. I'm curious then, if your employer decides to pay you at the beginning of the year and you get the stream and you decide to sell your stream and then quit, so now the stream is canceled, how would that work?
That's a very good question. So one of the things that's one of the situations where I think we are working with so like credit score protocols right now. Like you have Spectral, you have Credit Protocol, and so these are like protocols to, for example, judge your credit score and do these types of things. And I think in the future, when it comes to these situations, you will have to have systems like these, sort of like social contexts, sometimes off-chain solutions, which where you're able to see, okay, this stream was created as part of the paycheck of this organization. And so you know as a buyer, well, I'm taking a risk here because if that employee quits, I'm losing money essentially. And so that's definitely something which will be arriving in the future. We are definitely working with a ton of different integrators, especially also on the NFT lending side, to make this a reality. But yeah, that's coming in the future. Okay, by the way, we have t-shirts to give and stickers, so if you're interested, head over here and yeah, thank you.